Good morning, Nyx. So cute. Hello, hi. My name is Zoe, I'm the Tipsy Psychic, and today we're going to talk about familiars. Basically, one of the main misconceptions about familiars is that people believe that just because they have a pet, that pet is their familiar. The truth is, the bond with your familiar is very unique, and you can have a cat and yet they're not your familiar. So how can you tell if you actually have a familiar and not just a pet? They are more energetic and active when you practice magic. They're always trying to butt into your magical practice. Like, I've had Nyx just kind of walk in to the room while I'm casting a spell and just kind of like lie there in front of me while I'm doing it. And I usually take that as a sign where I need to like listen to her. I feel like she's often telling me something. But at the same time, it can be like, I just set all this up. Like, I know you probably are trying to alert me of something or trying to communicate with me, but they always want to be a part of it. And when I actually started letting her be more of a part of it, it was much easier because she didn't actually have to make a scene. She was just there and she assisted me in my spell work. You feel like they understand what you're saying. When you're talking to them, you can tell, like, they get it. They get exactly what you are saying to them. And it's a little trippy at first, but it's also very convenient. If you are having health problems, they may sense it before you do. My familiar is very connected to me, I feel, and they can always tell, like, when I'm feeling sick. They always are very supportive. Nyx is so sweet, so supportive, and she can tell, like, if I'm having a tummy ache or I'm just, like, even when I'm, like, on my period, she can totally tell. Sometimes she can tell when my period's gonna come before it even gets here. So she, like, I don't know, she's very connected to me. I'm so glad she doesn't have to go through PMS, but I actually had a friend who was diagnosed with breast cancer, and her familiar, which happened to be a bird, actually seemed to know about it before she did and would always sort of point to it. And she didn't really understand what the bird was pointing at. She thought, oh my God, this bird is weird. Turns out the bird was actually, who was her familiar, was actually telling her, like, you need to see a doctor. And turns out she had breast cancer. And thanks to the bird, she was able to get into remission before, you know, and basically take care of it as much as she could. You know, cancer is a journey. It's not like something you just cure, but she did not get the worst of it, and that was good, and she survived. They are calming and supportive when you feel nervous. You can tell that they are very psychic. Another sign is that they don't feel intimidated by the elements. In fact, they might be drawn to them. And by elements, I mean air, water, fire, earth. For example, they might like the bathtub, or drinking water from water glasses, or they love rain, or swimming. Or when you light candles, they don't mind the flame, or they're drawn to it, and you have to kind of move the candle aside because you're like, that this is not like a toy. Don't play with this. Or maybe they just don't mind being near a chimney and they enjoy watching the flames. Or maybe they're drawn to fans. They like standing in front of fans and having the wind or the air blow on their faces. Maybe they like heights a lot and being in places that are a little more breezy. Or if you take them outside, maybe they really like the wind. Or maybe they're drawn to your plants, your indoor plants. Maybe they really like when you are cooking root vegetables. Maybe they like sniffing it or hanging out around you. They don't have to be drawn to all the elements, but it's usually a big sign when they are drawn to at least one or two. So for example, Nyx is very drawn to water. She loves water. Like, I don't know, it's this deep obsession with water. And she also likes candles. I try not to let her near the candles too much, but she doesn't seem to be reckless about it. She just kind of is like drawn to it every time I light a candle. And I don't put it like in front of her, let her touch it or anything. I don't feel like that's very responsible. But I also sort of trust her to an extent, if that makes any sense. And also she loves fans. Like, she loves standing in front of fans and the wind, and she loves plants. She's dug up all of my plants. Obviously, I don't have ones that are really poisonous or anything, or bad for her. But for example, Tim, my money tree, I have to keep on top of the refrigerator. And when I go to tend to my herb garden, I have to sort of keep her away from it because she loves plants so much. So I feel like she's very drawn to the elements. And if you feel like you relate to this, then your pet is most likely very drawn to them too, and might be your familiar. Also, if they like storms or they don't mind storms. So a lot of animals are known to be very scared of storms. But if you have a familiar, they usually are okay with them. And it's very good, like if you're a weather witch, or you do chaos magic, or, you know, you work a lot with the elements, it's really good to have a familiar like this. Nyx is not afraid of storms. She loves being by the window during storms. So most animals are very connected to the moon, but familiars especially. So if during the full moon you notice that they are much more wild and energetic, especially during the full moon, then they're most likely a familiar because they're very tied to the moon. If they see ghosts and spirits in haunted areas. So I have a friend who has an apartment that is haunted, and she's a witch. And she does some powerful magic in this apartment. And her familiar, who's a cat, can actually sense the spirits and the ghosts, and she kind of tells her beforehand if they're around before she does her spell work, if that makes any sense. So the cat has this connection where she can kind of sense when the ghosts are there or present. And it's very interesting, actually. A familiar is a very divine connection with you, and you may see them a lot in your dreams or sense them in your dreams. A lot of the time, a familiar will try to communicate with you through your dreams or in the astral realm. Another sign is if they act really wary or weird or jumpy around someone who may not have your best interest at heart. Another sign is that you can tell that they're protecting you, maybe from unseen entities or spirits or negative energy, or just in general, they feel the need to like protect you, to guard your door, especially when they know you're doing magical workings. Another sign is that you can feel so bonded to them that you kind of know how they're feeling, and vice versa. It's usually very empathic in nature, this familiar bond. So thank you so much for watching. Do you have a familiar? I would love to know if you are working with a familiar. I'm gonna get into some other misconceptions and misunderstandings people have about familiars, because I feel like there are a lot of them. People are very clueless about them. Remember, your pet doesn't have to be a familiar. This is how you know. If you don't have to have all of these things checked off for your pet to be a familiar, but you will know, like, a lot of these will sound very familiar. The familiar bond is not something you can force. You know, it's either there or it's not, or it clicks into place, but a familiar is more than a pet, okay? And like I said, you don't have to have it doesn't have to be a pet. either. You can work with familiars that are not, you know, that you don't own or that you don't have, that don't live with you, you know. So if you do have a familiar, please let me know what their name is, what kind of familiar you have, and what you think of all this. Whether they do any of the things that I've listed, just let me know in the comment section below. Subscribe to my channel. Bye.